Picture this. I'm standing at the edge of my kitchen counter, a chipped mug of lukewarm coffee in my hand, staring at a tiny crack in the linoleum floor that's been there for years, growing just a little wider with each passing season. It's not the kind of thing most people notice, but I do. I notice everything in this small, cluttered apartment of ours because, well, there's not much else to occupy my mind. My name's Olivia, and at 30, I've somehow settled into a life that feels like it's running on a loop, a playlist of mundane moments that never quite hits a high note. This apartment, tucked away in a sleepy suburban neighborhood just outside the city, is my world. It's not much to look at. Mismatched furniture, stacks of unopened mail on the dining table, and a faint smell of last night's dinner lingering in the air. The walls are a faded beige, the kind of color you don't choose but just end up with. And in the middle of it all is Daniel, my husband, who's always here but never really present. He works from home, hunched over his laptop in the corner of our living room, headphones clamped over his ears like a barrier between us. I can't even remember the last time I saw his eyes without that distracted glaze, the kind that tells me he's somewhere else, lost in a world of code or podcasts or whatever it is he's plugged into. He doesn't look up when I walk by, doesn't flinch when I drop a pan in the kitchen. It's like I'm a ghost in my own home, drifting through rooms he doesn't see. I've gotten used to it, though. That's the strange part. At first, I'd try to pull him out of his bubble, asking questions, starting conversations, even waving a hand in front of his face just to get a reaction. But over the years, his silence has become a kind of background hum, like the refrigerator's constant drone or the distant sound of traffic outside. I don't fight it anymore. I just exist around it. I remember one evening, maybe a year ago, when I spent 20 minutes telling him about a funny thing I saw at the grocery store, only to realize he hadn't heard a word. He just nodded absently, one earbud still in, fork scraping against his plate as he ate. Or the time I asked him to help me move a heavy box, and he mumbled something about being busy, leaving me to drag it across the floor alone, my arms aching as I cursed under my breath. Our conversations now? They're nothing more than transactions. Did you pay the electric bill? Can you grab milk tomorrow? That's the extent of it. No warmth, no depth, just the bare minimum to keep this household running. And so, I fill my days with the little things, the routines that keep me tethered to some sense of purpose. I clean the apartment, even though the mess always creeps back by the next day. But this morning, something snapped me out of that dull rhythm. I woke up to a sound I couldn't ignore, a loud, relentless gushing, like a waterfall had somehow sprung up in the middle of my home. My eyes snapped open, heart already racing as I stumbled out of bed, the cold floor biting at my bare feet. I shuffled toward the noise, dreading what I'd find, and there it was, my kitchen, transformed into a shallow lake. Water was pouring out from under the sink, a steady, unapologetic stream that had already soaked half the room. I stood there for a second, just staring, as the reality of it sank in. Then I stepped forward, and the icy water seeped right through my slippers, chilling my toes and sending a shiver up my spine. Great. Just great. I grabbed a stack of old towels from the closet, the ones we keep for spills and emergencies, and started mopping up the mess as best I could. The towels soaked through in seconds, heavy and useless, while the water just kept coming. My hands were trembling, not from the cold, but from the sheer frustration of it all. I glanced over my shoulder toward the dining table where Daniel sat, as always, headphones on, fingers tapping away at his laptop like nothing in the world could touch him. "Daniel," I called out, my voice sharp, cutting through the sound of the water. "Can you help me here?" "The kitchen's flooding." I waited, expecting at least a glance, some flicker of concern. But all I got was a dismissive wave of his hand, not even a turn of his head. "Call someone," he muttered, his tone flat, like I was asking him to pick up a sock off the floor instead of deal with a full-blown disaster. That stung, more than I thought it would. It wasn't just about the water or the mess, it was the way he didn't even bother to look at me, the way I'm always on my own, even when I'm drowning in more ways than one. I bit my lip, swallowing the hot words I wanted to throw back at him, and turned away. Anger and resignation churned in my chest, a familiar cocktail I've sipped too many times. I grabbed my phone off the counter, water dripping from my sleeves as I scrolled through my contacts for a plumber. My fingers fumbled, smearing wet streaks across the screen, but I finally found a number for a local guy with decent reviews. When I dialed, a gruff voice answered on the third ring, sounding like he'd just rolled out of bed himself. I explained the situation, my voice tight and clipped, trying to keep the irritation from spilling over. "Pipe burst under the sink. Kitchen's a mess." "Can you come now?" He grunted, mumbled something about being busy, but promised to be here in an hour. An hour. I hung up, staring at the phone like it had personally offended me, wondering if he'd even show up at all. So, I'm pacing around the kitchen, the wet towels still piled in a soggy heap by the sink, checking the clock every 5 minutes like that's gonna make time move faster. The gushing has slowed to a trickle, but the damage is done. My slippers are still damp, squishing with every step, and the air smells like wet wood and mildew. I can't sit still. Not with this mess staring me in the face, and not with Daniel still glued to his laptop in the other room, oblivious as ever. Finally, after what feels like forever, there's a sharp knock at the door. I jolt, almost tripping over a stray towel as I hurry to answer it. Standing there is a guy who looks like he's been up since dawn, maybe longer. His name's Ethan, according to the faded patch on his work shirt. He's younger than I expected, maybe late 20s, with a scruffy jawline and tired eyes that still manage to carry a spark of something sharp, something alive. His hands are rough, calloused, the kind that tell you he's wrestled with more than a few stubborn pipes in his day. There's a quiet confidence about him, the way he stands with his tool bag slung over one shoulder, not saying much at first, just taking in the scene with a quick, practiced glance. "Heard you got a problem," he says, his voice low, gravelly, like he doesn't waste words. I nod, stepping aside to let him in, pointing toward the kitchen like it's not painfully obvious where the disaster is. He doesn't hesitate, just heads straight for the sink, dropping his bag with a heavy thud. I watch as he kneels down, his boots scuffing against the wet floor, and peers under the cabinet. His tools clink and clatter as he pulls them out. A wrench here, a flashlight there, and then he's half crawling into the tight space, his broad shoulders barely fitting. I don't know why, but I find myself dragging a kitchen stool over, perching on it a few feet away, just watching. It's not like I've got anything better to do, but there's something oddly mesmerizing about the way he moves, all focused and sure, like he's got the whole world figured out down there in the dark with the pipes. I'm bored, yeah, but there's a flicker of curiosity too, like I'm waiting for something to happen, though I couldn't tell you what. The minutes tick by, and I notice the little things. The way he glances up at me every now and then from under the cabinet, his eyes catching mine for just a beat too long before he looks away. It's not a big deal, or at least I tell myself it isn't, but my pulse quickens anyway. Then there's the sweat beading on his forehead, a faint sheen under the harsh kitchen light, and the way his worn-out shirt clings to his shoulders as he twists and reaches for something out of sight. I shift on the stool, crossing and uncrossing my legs, feeling the air in the room grow heavier, thicker, though I'm not ready to admit why. It's like there's a current running between us, subtle but undeniable, and I'm caught in it without even trying. "Hey, can you hand me a rag?" His voice cuts through the silence, pulling me out of my head. I blink, realizing I've been staring, and mumble a quick, "Sure," as I slide off the stool. I grab one of the dryer towels from the counter and bend down to pass it to him, my arm stretching into the cramped space under the sink. His hand reaches out, and as I let go of the rag, his fingers brush against my ankle. It's quick, barely a touch, but I freeze. A jolt shoots through me, sharp and electric, like I've been plugged into something I didn't see coming. It feels accidental, or at least it should, but there's a weight to it, a lingering warmth that doesn't fade as fast as it should. I don't pull away. I can't. My breath catches, and I look down to find his eyes locked on mine for a split second before he pulls his gaze away, clearing his throat like nothing happened. I straighten up too fast, nearly knocking over the stool, my face burning as I stumble back to my spot. My heart's pounding so loud, I'm sure he can hear it over the clink of his tools. I'm trying to act normal, to pretend that fleeting moment didn't just shake me to my core, but my hands are trembling as I grip the edge of the counter for balance. I'm caught in this weird limbo, torn between wanting to say something and praying the silence just swallows us both. The air feels charged, like static before a storm, and I can't shake the feeling that I've crossed some invisible line, even if I didn't mean to. Then, out of nowhere, I hear the soft creak of a floorboard behind me. My stomach drops like I've just stepped off a cliff. I turn my head slowly, dreading what I'll see. And there he is. Daniel, standing in the doorway between the kitchen and the living room, his phone in one hand, the other hanging loosely at his side. His headphones are off now, dangling around his neck like a noose, and I realize with a sickening lurch that I don't know how long he's been there. Has he been watching us? Did he see that moment under the sink, that accidental touch that felt like so much more? My mind races, replaying every second of the last few minutes, trying to gauge what he might have caught. Panic grips me, cold and tight, squeezing the air out of my lungs. Time seems to slow to a crawl, every detail sharpening into painful clarity. The faint hum of the refrigerator in the corner, the steady drip of water still echoing from the sink, the way the light catches the edge of Daniel's phone as he grips it just a little too tightly. His face is a blank slate. No anger, no hurt, no surprise, just nothing. I've spent years trying to read him, to decipher the tiniest shifts in his expression, but right now, there's nothing to grab onto. His eyes meet mine, steady and unblinking, and I feel like I'm staring into a void. My stomach churns, a nauseating mix of guilt and fear swirling inside me. I open my mouth to say something, anything, but all that comes out is a stammered mess of half words. Daniel, I don't even know what I'm trying to explain, but the words trip over themselves, clumsy and useless. My mind's a whirlwind, scrambling for an excuse, a way to smooth this over, but every thought feels flimsy, like tissue paper in a downpour. Beside me, I hear Ethan shift, the scrape of his boots against the wet floor, breaking the suffocating silence. He's on his feet now, wiping his hands on his jeans, the rag I handed him still clutched in one fist. "Hey, man. Sorry if I, overstepped or anything," he mumbles, his voice low and awkward, like he's just as aware of the tension as I am. He doesn't look at Daniel, just keeps his eyes on the floor, rubbing the back of his neck like he's waiting for a blow that might not come. I can feel the heat radiating off my own cheeks, the shame of being caught in whatever this was, even if I can't quite name it. But Daniel doesn't react the way I expect. I'm braced for shouting, for accusations, for him to storm out, or at least show some flicker of emotion. Instead, he just moves. Calmly, almost methodically, he steps into the kitchen, his sneakers silent against the damp floor. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a wad of crumpled bills and holds them out to Ethan without a word. My jaw drops, my heart hammering so hard I'm sure it's going to crack a rib. What is happening? I'm frozen, watching this bizarre exchange unfold like I'm stuck in some kind of fever dream. Ethan hesitates, his hand hovering in midair for a moment before he takes the cash with a quick nod, muttering a barely audible "thanks" under his breath. I'm still standing there, rooted to the spot, as Daniel's words cut through the thick, oppressive air like a knife. "Next time, bring a partner." His voice is low, almost casual, but there's an edge to it. A sharpness that slices right through me. I blink, my mind reeling, trying to process what he just said. Next time? Bring a partner? What does that even mean? My stomach twists into a tighter knot, a cold sweat prickling at the back of my neck as I search his face for some kind of clue, some hint of what's going on behind those unreadable eyes. Is he mocking me? Making some kind of cruel jab at what he might have seen? Is it a threat? A warning that he's onto something I can't even fully admit to myself? Or is there something darker lurking beneath his words, something I can't begin to fathom? My thoughts spin like a carousel gone off its tracks, each possibility more unsettling than the last. I feel like I'm grasping at smoke, desperate to understand, but coming up empty-handed. Ethan, clearly as unnerved as I am, doesn't stick around to figure it out. He shoves the bills into his pocket, grabs his tool bag with a hurried jerk, and mutters a quick, "See ya," before heading for the door. I don't even have time to respond before I hear the sharp click of the latch behind him, leaving me alone in the kitchen with Daniel. The silence that follows is suffocating, heavier than it's ever been, pressing down on me like a physical weight. I'm still trembling, the aftershocks of that charged moment with Ethan mixing with the raw panic of being caught, or at least feeling like I was. My legs feel weak, like they might give out any second, but I can't move, can't tear my eyes away from Daniel as he stands there, his presence looming even though he's not doing anything at all. I try to speak, to break through this unbearable quiet, to explain or apologize or just say something to fill the void. But the words stick in my throat, choking me before they can even form. "Daniel, I start, but my voice cracks, barely a whisper, and I don't even know what I'm trying to say. What could I say? That it wasn't what it looked like? That I didn't mean for anything to happen, even if I'm not sure what did happen? Every excuse feels hollow, every justification crumbling before it can even take shape. He doesn't respond, doesn't even acknowledge that I've spoken. He just looks at me, his gaze cold and distant, like I'm not even a person to him anymore, just a shadow in the room. Those eyes, the ones I've spent years trying to connect with, feel like they're seeing right through me, peeling back layers I didn't even know I had. I feel exposed, raw, like I've been stripped bare under a spotlight I can't escape. Then, without a word, he turns away. I watch, almost in slow motion, as he picks up his headphones from where they're still dangling around his neck, slips them back over his ears with a deliberate calm, and walks back to his spot at the dining table. He sits down, his fingers already moving over the laptop keys, the faint glow of the screen reflecting off his face as if nothing, absolutely nothing, has happened. I'm left standing there, my breath shallow, my heart still racing like it's trying to break free from my chest. The silence between us isn't just heavy now. It's deafening, a void that swallows every sound, every thought, until all I can hear is the faint tapping of his keyboard and the uneven rhythm of my own breathing. It's like the world has stopped, frozen in this moment of utter disconnection, and I'm trapped in it, unable to move forward or back. My mind won't stop racing, though. I can't shake the feeling that he saw everything, that fleeting touch under the sink, the way my eyes lingered too long on Ethan, the tension that hung in the air like a storm. The days that follow feel like I'm wading through a thick, suffocating fog. Everything around me moves in slow motion, yet I'm hyper-aware of every creak in the floorboards, every tick of the clock on the wall. Daniel and I don't talk about what happened in the kitchen that day, not a single word. But his silence isn't just the usual indifference I've grown accustomed to. It's heavier now, sharper, like a blade hanging over my head, waiting to drop. It feels like a weapon, loaded with unspoken judgment, and I can't tell if he's punishing me or just biding his time. I catch myself holding my breath whenever he's in the room, waiting for him to say something, anything, to break this unbearable tension. But he doesn't. He just sits there at his usual spot, headphones on, fingers tapping away, as if the world hasn't shifted beneath us. I notice the little things, though, the subtle shifts that gnaw at my nerves. The way he glances at me when he thinks I'm not looking, quick darting looks that vanish the moment I turn my head. I'll be wiping down the counter or folding laundry in the living room, and I'll feel the weight of his stare, like a cold finger tracing down my spine. When I meet his eyes, he's already looking away, his face blank as ever, leaving me to wonder if I imagined it. But I didn't. I know I didn't. Then there's his phone, always nearby now, closer than it used to be. He keeps it face down on the table or tucked into his pocket, but I see the way his hand hovers over it, like he's expecting a message or guarding a secret. Every time it buzzes, my stomach twists, and I can't help but wonder if it's something, or someone, connected to that day. Is he texting Ethan? Does he know more than he's letting on? The questions loop in my head, relentless, with no answers in sight. I can't shake the feeling that he's holding something over me, some piece of knowledge or suspicion that he's choosing not to reveal. It's in the air between us, invisible but suffocating, like a storm cloud that refuses to break. I replay that moment with Ethan over and over. The brush of his fingers against my ankle, the heat that surged through me, the way my heart raced with something I hadn't felt in years. And the truth is, I don't regret it. I don't regret feeling alive for those fleeting seconds, even if it was wrong, even if it was reckless. That thrill, that spark, it was something I'd forgotten I could feel. But now, it's tainted by this gnawing fear, this dread that Daniel saw more than I realized, that he knows more than he's saying. What if he's just waiting for the right moment to confront me? What if he's planning something worse? My mind spins with possibilities, each one darker than the last, and I'm trapped in this cycle of guilt and paranoia with no way out. Part of me wants to confront him, to march over to that dining table, yank those headphones off, and demand to know what he meant by, next time, bring a partner. I want to ask if he saw what happened, if he's been watching me closer than I thought, if he's been keeping tabs on every move I make. I want to scream at him to just say something, to stop this torturous silence and lay it all out on the table. But every time I muster the courage, I stop myself cold. My hands tremble, my throat tightens, and I'm paralyzed by the fear of what I might uncover. What if he does know everything? What if he's been sitting on this for days, letting it fester, waiting for me to crack first? Or worse, what if there's something else, something I haven't even considered, that he's hiding behind that unreadable mask of his? The uncertainty is a weight on my chest, pressing harder with each passing hour, and I don't know how much longer I can carry it. The nights are the worst. I lie awake in our bed, the space between us feeling like an insurmountable chasm, wondering if the truth will ever bridge the distance between our hearts. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.